Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Heidi from My Reading Life, and I'm here to start a new video series. So this is going to be a TBR reduction challenge project where I have a book. I have a stack of books here from my physical TBR, and I'm going to either be reading them far enough that I know I don't want to read them anymore and DNFing them, or I'm going to read them completely through and get them off my physical TBR shelf. So when Doris was here at the end of July, she and I perused my physical TBR shelf. And based on her knowledge of my reading tastes and books that we've read together and ones that we've enjoyed and haven't enjoyed, and discussion that we had about various titles on my shelves, she and I came up with 10 books that I feel, and she and I feel, both feel, are books that I am likely to not get along with, or that I am likely to find less enjoyment out of. So we've prepared a stack of 10 books. I'm gonna go through these 10 books with you, and then I'm gonna spin a wheel to pick my first read. And this particular episode is going to be me reading or DNFing several of these books up to, I don't know, whenever I get tired of this video and stop it. So here we go. Let's talk about the books that are on the shelf. Now, before I get started, I just want to say, I'm not saying that any of these books are bad at all. I'm just saying that these are books that through discussion with Doris, we decided were the least likely books that I would enjoy on my TBR. So the first one is a second book in a series. This is The Eye in the Door by Pat Barker, which is the follow-up book to Regeneration, which I read several years ago. I did like Regeneration, but I barely remember it. So at this point, I haven't continued on in the series, and it's likely that I won't remember enough to really enjoy this one. So that's why that one's on there. The second one is The Muse by Jessie Burton. This one's on here because Doris had read this and she thinks it's unlikely to be a book that I will enjoy. So this one, novel, going on the list. The next one is The Midcoast by Adam White. This is a book, I think it's supposed to be suspense. It takes place in a small coastal Maine town, maybe on an island, I can't remember. But I've heard very mixed reviews of this one, and that's why I'm very trepidatious about it. So that's why that one's on the stack. Then we have Old Filth by Jane Gardam. This is a modern classic, and I have heard some things about the writing style that lead me to believe that I may not like this one. I may. That's what this project's all about, so we shall see. The next one is another mystery. This is The Violin Conspiracy by Brendan Slocum. Now, I've heard very good things about this one, and the only thing that's holding me back on this one, that the reason why I think that it may be a book I don't enjoy, is the music aspect of this. I understand it's a slower paced mystery with emphasis on classical music. That's not typically my thing, but we shall see. The next one is Salman Rushdie's Quixote, which I believe is a retelling of Don Quixote, which I did read Don Quixote, and that's why I was interested in this one. But I have Salman Rushdie writes a lot of magical realism, and magical realism is not typically my preferred type of book. So that's why that one's on there. The next book is another book in a series. This is book 3 in a science fiction series, Only Human by Sylvain Neuvel. I read the first 2 books in this series years ago, and I remember almost nothing about them. So I picked this one up years ago. Look how cool that cover is. And I just don't know. I just don't think I remember enough. And I sort of, if I haven't read it by now, like, why is it still on my physical TBR? And then the last novel, excuse me, my nose is really itchy. The last novel on this stack is A Piece of the World by Christina Baker Klein. Historical fiction. For whatever reason, I have not been in the mood for historical fiction lately, so that's why that one's on the list. I'm afraid that's going to fall. These last 2 books in this book grouping of 10 are nonfiction. This is The Rumi Prescription by Melody Mosey, I think. And this is How an Ancient Mystic Poet Changed My Modern Manic Life. This is a memoir about wellness, spirituality, poetry, and for those reasons, Doris does not think that this book will appeal to me. she's probably right. We shall see. And then last but not least is The Trading Game, A Confession by Gary Stevenson. And this is a book about stock market and a man who was involved in stock market trading and some kind of like shady business, and how he, came to the realization that what he was doing was wrong and he should not be doing that sort of thing. The ethical considerations of it. So this was a book that was sent to me unsolicited by a publisher. So I'm not sure that this is a book for me. So these are the 10 books. What I have done is I have been really interested in people who use a spinning wheel to pick a book to read off their TBR. So I have set up, let me see if I can get it without glare. I have set up a spinning wheel with all of these 10 titles, and we're gonna use this wheel to pick what I read first. So hit the spin. Let's see what we get. How exciting! Is it Old Filth? Yes, that's what we're going to start with, is Old Filth. So I am going to go off and start reading this book and then come back to you with either I will have finished it or I will be DNFing it. Stay tuned. So I am back and I have finished Old Filth by Jane Gardam. So this book was a surprise in that I did read the whole thing. I did not DNF. This book started out really strong for me. I really enjoyed it in the beginning. And then as I read on, I'm sad to say that it did not sustain the level of enjoyment that I started out with. I felt like it really got, I don't know, I just got bored with it. And towards the end, I was really just kind of skim reading. I did not find it compelling the whole way through. So this story is about a man whose nickname is Old Filth. He, Filth stands for failed in London, try Hong Kong. And so Filth is born to parents who are living in Malaysia right after World War One. His dad had served in World War One and married a British woman, and they moved to a government outpost in Malaysia, and the mom dies in childbirth. This all happens in the very beginning. And Filth is sent back to England to, be fostered and to go to school and all that, learn English manners, basically. But we start the book with Filth as a retired lawyer. He's back in England. He lived in Hong Kong. His career was in Hong Kong. He's now back in England because he's 80 some years old. And from that first image of him, we just get flashbacks of his life, and not in chronological order, but in varying time periods during his life. And we start to see why he is the way he is. And it really is a look back through sort of the end of the British Empire and how people who worked for the empire in these various outposts, particularly in Asia, how that changed them, and how it changed them, but also reinforced their perception of like the British culture as sort of the culture to aspire to. But Filth himself is shaped by all of his experiences, some of which are very bad. This book I had picked up because I had heard it was funny. I did not find this book funny very much. There were a few spots that I thought were amusing, but mostly I just felt like it was sad. And Filth is a very sad character to me. I don't think he's written to be sad, but it just felt really sad and sort of like he's stuck back in time, and like the new era. The book ends in like the 1990s when he's in his 80s. It's in like the 1990s, and it's like a society that he just doesn't know what to do with. So I have to say this was not a huge success. I probably should have DNF'd it, but by the time I was like halfway through it, I'm like, I might as well just keep reading it and get it done with. So this one is off the shelf. So here we are. It's time to spin the wheel again and pick a new book from my TBR Takedown stack, which is this stack of books right up here. We have 9 books left. I have my little spinning wheel here. Let's push the button. Is it going to spin? I think it's going to spin now. Sorry, the overhead lights are on because it looks like it's probably going to rain here in a minute. what book did we get? We got A Piece of the World. So, yeah, A Piece of the World. Hold on, let me grab that one off the stack. Of course, it's near the bottom. All right. So we're going to try Christina Baker Klein's A Piece of the World. This is historical fiction, I believe. It says, to Christina Olson, the entire world was her family's remote farm in the small coastal town of Cushing, Maine. Born in the home her family had lived in for generations and increasingly incapacitated by illness, Christina seemed destined for a small life. Instead, for more than 20 years, she was host and inspiration for the artist Andrew Wyeth and became the subject of one of the best-known paintings of the 20th century, Christina's World. So this is based on a true story. This cover is part of the painting Christina's World. The real painting, I think, is this old farmhouse in the field and then a young woman lying on the grass in the foreground, and that young woman is evidently this Christina Olson. And of course, Cushing, Maine, I have been to, and so that is why I was interested in this book in the first place, because it takes place in Maine, and I'm very familiar with Andrew Wyeth, the artist, but historical fiction, as we know, is not my strong suit. So I'm going to give this one a try, and I will come back and let you know whether I finish it or I DNF it. So let's see how I get on. Here for an update on my TBR Takedown project. So I finished the second book that the wheel picked for me from this stack of books right here. And this was a huge success. So this is A Piece of the World by Christina Baker Klein. This is historical fiction, and even though I claim that I don't really get along with historical fiction lately, for whatever reason, I have been doing pretty well with it. So this is the story of Christina, who is a woman from the early part of the 20th century. She lives in a small town on the coast of Maine called Cushing, and this is based on real people and real events. So she was the inspiration for Andrew Wyeth's painting Christina's World. Andrew Wyeth, famous painter from a famous artistic family. His father was N.C. Wyeth, and his son was Jamie Wyeth, I believe, and very popular American artist. Christina's World is the painting of this is what's in the painting, and then there's a woman in the foreground in a pink dress, and the woman in the pink dress is Christina, and that was a real person that Andrew Wyeth met. And this is her story. So the story takes place, it starts right after World War II, where we learn Christina lives at home, in the home she was born in, with her brother. She's never been married, and she has some physical disabilities that mean she has very limited mobility. She and her brother are very poor, and we get flashbacks of her whole life. We find out, about her family and her childhood, and things that happened to her when she was a young woman, and then when she meets Andrew Wyeth and how he becomes interested in painting and the connection that they have together. She's in her 40s when they meet. He's a young man in his 20s, and he is not yet the famous author famous artist that he will become. And it's about this woman's life. It's about rural living. It's about things that women have to deal with in their lives. I really, really enjoyed this book. I really love the setting. The coast of Maine and rural, small town Maine living is described so incredibly well. I love the history of the time period, what it was like, particularly for women, particularly for rural women living in this time period. So difficult, so much work to live on these remote farms that didn't have electricity, that didn't have running water and all that sort of thing. And I even enjoyed learning about reading about Andrew Wyeth. I'm not interested typically in art or artists, but I really enjoyed this story. And it read so quickly. I picked it up and I just flew through this book. It did not take me long to read it all. It's like 300 pages long, and it reads, I probably read this in 3 separate sittings at 100 pages at a time, and just read so quickly. So highly, highly recommend A Piece of the World if you like that type of a book. So let's spin one more time and do one more book in this episode of this TBR Takedown challenge. I have my little spinning wheel right here, and let's spin it and see what we get, shall we? The suspense is killing me. I hope the wheel is kind to me. And let's see, which we got. Only Human. Okay, so that's a science fiction book, and it is a third in the series. I've read the first two, but it was a long time ago. So, and that's the problem, is it's been so long that I don't know if I really remember. I don't remember what happened in the first one. So can I just pick this up and read this very cool hardcover underneath the dust jacket here? The first book was about a giant robot is discovered buried in the ground. And these stories are told as like interviews, reports that are filed, other types of written correspondence. So it's like multimedia. I don't know if it's still called epistolary, if it's not just letters, but like that, it's the narrative is told in these sorts of other documents that are pulled together. And I really enjoy that writing style. I really enjoyed that format in a book. So I don't know if I can read this because I'm not going to go back and read the first two books. I didn't enjoy them that much that I would read them again. They were probably, the first one was, I enjoyed more than the second one. The second one I did not love. So I'm just going to see if I can find some summaries of the first two books online and then give this a go and see if it's something that I'm still interested in reading. If not, we're just going to move on with our lives. So stay tuned. Here I am to talk about the third book that I picked off my pile for my TBR Takedown challenge. And I have decided to DNF this book, Only Human by Sylvain Neuval. This is book 3 in a science fiction series. So this is the Themis Files. The first book is Sleeping Giants. Is that right? Buried Giant, Sleeping Giant. Why can't I find the list of Sleeping Giants, Waking Gods, and now this is Only Human, book 3 in this series. I should have known, because I've let it sit on my TBR pile for 4 or 5 years in a third and final book in a series, that this was not going to be for me. And in fact, that's why it was on the stack of 10 books, because those were books that I am thinking that I am unlikely to get along with. And so I was correct in that. So I read, you can see my bookmark, I read the first about 100 pages, about 110 pages, and I just didn't care. Like, I set it down and I did not go back to pick it up. I did not want to pick it up. I wasn't interested. And I can't really talk about this very much because it would spoil books 1 and 2, things that happen in books 1 and 2. I do like the format of this book. So this is told in an epistolary style through reports, recordings of interviews, messages sent back and forth between the main characters. And the premise of the whole series is that a woman finds a giant hand buried in the ground, and that hand actually belongs to a bigger giant robot, basically. And they excavate this giant robot and they try to figure out what the heck this giant robot is. And turns out it is the remnants of an alien civilization that had been on Earth thousands of years ago and had left this technology behind. So that's how the book 1 starts. And then book 3, we're still dealing with this alien race of people. There is one thing that I really didn't like about this is there's this whole communication problem between the alien race and our human characters, and the alien language is like on the page, like you get a conversation recorded, and the alien side of the conversation, it just looks like somebody banging on a keyboard and selecting random letters, and there's just pages of that, and I'm like, what? It's not very much fun to read, I don't think. So that was frustrating. There is a father-daughter relationship. The daughter is like 18, 19 years old, and they are having conflict, and I'm really not wanting to read about conflict between parents and late stage teenagers. That also is not something that I, at the moment, am particularly interested in. So I thought, you know what? The whole point of this project is to give myself a break and to let go of things that are not working for me and to not force myself to finish things just because they're on my TBR. So that is what I'm doing. I'm letting this one go. So the first DNF of the project, yay me. Feeling good about that. And then I'm going to end this video here. And then this will be episode 1 of the TBR Takedown Challenge. And I'll be back with episode 2, hopefully shortly, hopefully not very long. I'd like to make my way through this initial stack of 10 pretty quickly. And I'm really enjoying this style of video. And I am the type of person where having a project helps me get through books a lot more quickly. And I really like using the spinning wheel thing to select the book I'm going to read next. And so I'm hoping that this project continues to be successful for me. So anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you're all doing well and finding some great books to read, and I will talk to you later.